That's Kayla's. Oh, really? The Caribbean. That's Kayla's. There's several.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Khalid Thompson. I am one of the co-founders and the president of the board of Island Space Caribbean Museum. Can you let me know if you have ever been here before? If it's your first time, just Yvonne. If you have never been here before, can you please just raise your hand? All right, so we have a room full of newbies and we welcome you here. Island Space is the first and only Caribbean heritage museum in the world. And what does that mean? You've been to a Jamaican museum, you've been to a Haitian one, you've been to a Cuban one, you've never been to one that represents all the countries of the region and shares all of our history together. And so we are unique in that way. And we invite you to come back with your family and friends. Before you leave here this evening, hopefully I can give you a little tour of the museum so you can see who we are and what we do and how we function. But I have to start off by saying that our Consul General Oliver Mayer, our Jamaican Consul General Oliver Mayer, has been one of the staunchest advocates of this museum. When we were putting down the first bricks, so to speak, we didn't build this space because we're here at the Broward Mall. But when we started this project just over 2 years ago, CG was here with his partner in crime, Cheryl, sweeping out the cockroaches and painting the walls, and just really helping us to establish this space. He has been a great partner. And so it is our pleasure to help him to restart his the Consul General's Distinguished Lecture Series. Restarted. There was a pause was it COVID? There was a pause because of COVID. It used to be at the consulate in Miami, and he has very graciously, as he has done with several other events of his, brought it to us at Island Space. And we're very happy and honored to have Leahcim Semaj, one of the distinguished orators, philosophers, thinkers from Jamaica, as our first presenter in this series. And Mr. Semaj, I am going to welcome you to the stage. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's the Consul General's Lecture Series. So we're gonna invite Oliver Mayer to the stage and he can reintroduce the project and what it's all about.
Thank you very much, Khalid. And I just want to say how proud I am of you and David and the work you're doing here. Don't you agree this is an excellent space? Let's give it up for Khalid and David. And if I may, sometimes the good book says that without faith it is impossible to please God. And they certainly had the faith, they stepped forward. And now this is a reality, and several of the Jamaican events that we have take place right here and are successfully executed. So today, they keep telling me, CG, don't speak long, so I'm going to be very brief, right? Today is a very special day. We celebrate the birthday of our first national hero, the Right Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Let's give him a big round of applause. I'll ask you to excuse me at some point because I'm actually the patron of our annual event where we celebrate the work and legacy of our first national hero. And I'm the patron for that event, and it's by Roots Extravaganza. But today is also the birthday of another gentleman who has had a major impact, not only on Jamaica, but on the world. When I was on campus, I was doing my first degree, and I used to listen to the radio. And I was a night owl. And there was a program called The Night Doctor. And there was a gentleman there who literally every night he came forward with a nice lecture. And I'd be there with my notes and I'd be, jotting away important things that I would end up using on test papers. Didn't always pass, but wasn't because of the information. He definitely made an impact on the entire community. And I've seen him just continue to grow as an individual. He has led, if you go to Calabash, he's one of the main persons there working with the team. He's a life coach. And in fact, in our talks, over the last couple of weeks. I mean, I thought I was a health enthusiast, but every day I call him, say, boy, CG, you call me when I'm at the gym. He exercises 7 days a week. And he's very serious about his health. He's very serious about making a difference, living his best life ever, but also, importantly, encourage all of us to realize our true potential and to do what's necessary to make the best use of what God has given to us. So the person I speak about is Dr. Leahcim Semaj, who also celebrates his birthday today. So let's give him a big round of applause. Are you enjoying with me in singing happy birthday for him? Miss Lucia, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you, dear Leahcim. Happy birthday, sing the chorus, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you, dear Leahcim. Happy birthday. Everybody here is a who's who I could go through and introduce, but I don't want to hold up any more time. I just want to thank each of you for coming. We appreciate you. The thousands in attendance, right? And the millions watching across the world. There's a gentleman who has one of the most established groups here in South Florida, and may I dare say in the diaspora. He has successfully pulled together 58 of our alumni groups. They have an annual walkathon in December where they raise funds for charities back at the individual schools, but he has also been able to get the community more organized around these fundraisers. He has done exceptional work with the University of the West Indies, and he wears many hats. With no further ado, I'm going to invite Dr. Rupert Rudd to come forward and do the special introduction of Dr. Semaj. But let's give a big round of applause to Dr. Rudd.
Thank you, CG. You know, one of the persons who have done wonders in South Florida here is CG Mayor. Here is the CG Mayor. I mean, it's 4 years, 5 years. Boy, time flies. But when I look at what you have accomplished, CG, it's phenomenal. And thank you for this series. You know, I have been asked many times to introduce individuals, and it has always been a pleasure for me to do so. But today, this one is special. Because if anyone knows Leahcim, right here in this area, it's me. Years ago, my parents went to England and they asked me, or they said to me and my sister, you go live with your grandparents. I went to Westmoreland to live. Went to a little school in Consul where Cheryl Winter went to. And then I came back to Kingston and I came there at age 8. But there was somebody who was in primary school, infant school before me, Leahcim Semaj. So if I say that I know Leahcim, my 3 years at Central Branch, I spent in the same class as Leahcim. We got common entrance together. And I won't hold this against him. He went to KC. It's purple tie. But I went to the school at North Hebrew Circle, Woolmers. No, not the girls' school. And over the years, you know, we always say, and I can tell you more. We lived in Alman Town together. He lived on Hitchin Street and I lived on Moore Street. And if you know the one big church, the one big Anglican church in Alman Town, both of us were at that church.
Cheryl lived next door.
Cheryl? St. Matthew's Church, and Cheryl's father was the organist at the church. So you see how we tie up? We're not up together. Anyway, it's such a pleasure to introduce you, my dear brother, my dear primary school batchmate. I don't get a chance, you know, to do this often, but I am so happy that I was asked by the CG, to do this. Even when Leahcim was in New York, our paths nearly crossed, but he decided to run back to Jamaica and leave me. He went to Rutgers University to do his doctorate, and I went to Fordham. But we were close by. And then when I came back now down to Florida, and I went to Jamaica a couple of times and I met him, I said, wait a minute. We are going to come back together somehow, and we are here in Florida, and I'm so thankful. But Leahcim is special. I have read his works. I have chatted with him, and whatever he is about health, the man is a health nut. I won't call him a health freak, a health nut. But more than ever, speaker, author, management consultant, quantum transformational psychologist, you hear the big terms? Social philosopher, public speaker, change management person, leadership development professional, team building professional. All this is Leahcim Semaj, Dr. Semaj. I don't come near to that. My area is economics. And I teach at FAU, and I'm the associate dean. But I have to bow down to my brother here because he has done both the universities, and now today he's making an impact on our lives. The best is yet to come. That's what Dr. Semaj is going to talk about today. The best is yet to come. And he knows how to talk about this topic. Dr. Semaj is not just speaking using words, a collection of words. When I tried to write something about him today, I said, whatever he says is a testament of the power of optimism and the beauty of embracing life's journey. He knows about these things. He's a psychologist. He combines ancient wisdom with scientifically backed principles to bring all of us fresh insight, and that's what he's going to do today. Let me shut up, because I want to listen a lot. So without further ado, my brother, my primary school friend, who get government scholarship, and he get a regular scholarship, but we still do well. It's my pleasure to welcome you here, Dr. Semaj.
Antecedents are so important. That thing about common entrance and whatever it is, it sets the tone for your life in so many ways. And in my instance, listen, I went to Central Branch now. I keep running into people who went to Central. That was like a university, boss.
Yes, sir.
And I went to Central Branch, my first school, because I was born not too, in fact, my first 13, 14 years of life, I lived below Torrington Bridge. Right? When I stop, but I lived below Crossroads, below Torrington Bridge. And I walked to school. I had to walk up to Central Branch because I lived at Park Road. Alright? Walk to Central Branch. My mother made it clear to me that she didn't have the money and the land, nothing to give me. All she can give me is the opportunity to get an education. I went to extra lesson. From me in an infant school, an extra lesson after school every day. But it was a trick. Mother worked in a factory down Princess Street, and she didn't want to reach home before her. So I got extra lesson now, so I reach home just in time. So it made sense. Because the biggest problem children get into is that time between school finish and your parents don't come home from work. Right? So, and then when my mother never finished even primary school, but she's one of the wisest person I know. When I signed up for common entrance, my first choice was JC and second choice was KC. Why? Because my best friend, Michael Randall, his mother was a teacher in the school too. That's what his choices were. And I want the same thing as my friend. My friend is bright. My mother went behind my back and switched my thing around. I put KC first, JC second. When the results came out, everybody said, Michael Randall got the Marcus Garvey scholarship. Marcus again. I looked at the Casey, I don't see my name. I looked at the JC, I don't see my name. It's about 10 o'clock, somebody comes, but you're in your right time with the PH too. You get a government scholarship. Now folks, I don't know if you know, back then what government scholarship meant. I got money for lunch, clothes, books, transportation. And if where you live was far from school, you get money for boarding. But I used to walk Casey too. 31 Hitchin Street. Just walk down and cut in front of George and across the road, all right? My last 2 years at Casey, I lived in Mona Heights. I take buses, so you know how? My mother was in America working in a white people's house. And she would send money to people that board. That's a whole other story to understand how Jamaica works, you know, how social capital and human capital. And my mother says that I took 25 cents and make life. I never finished upper six because it made no sense. When we went no student loan bureau. So after lower six, their mother coming to join you. So I went to New York. My mother handed me an application form for Bronx Community College. I handed it back to her. I said, my plan's bigger than that. She said, but that's all she can afford. I said, no, all I want from you is the money to buy a newspaper. The paper cost 25 cents then. My mother gave me 25 cents. I buy the Sunday paper. I saw one job for chemical lab technician. I had O-level chemistry, maths, physics, everything. Huh? I applied for the job the Monday. Get an interview the Wednesday and start work the Thursday. I don't know, so you must apply for 10 jobs, you know. At the end of the month, I applied to one college, City College. Why? It was the closest college where I live in the Bronx. You must apply to 10 college. I got accepted. It took me 5 years to finish a degree. Huh? Come I go to school all day and then go to school all evening. Side story, I gave up football at age 17. I couldn't afford to play football, no man kicked me down. And I can't go to school the next day. No, what's up, I give it up. But after finishing my first degree, I didn't do too badly. I got 4 offers to do my PhD. It never cost me nothing. Then I did my postdoctorate at Princeton Educational Testing Service. And then I was offered a post at Cornell University. 1979, 1980, I got the Distinguished Teacher Award at Cornell. I resigned. Why? If I am so good, what the hell am I doing at Cornell and my people need me? I went home to Jamaica. I gave up my tenure track position to take a 1-year appointment at UWI. They said those trades, they can't find the money next year. And they couldn't find the next year. It was a whole other story. But that's how it all started. Now, one of the things that I have done, once I left the university and I decided to offer information directly to the world, you know, you start to interact. And my role, you know, in the African tradition, you have the griot. The griot is the one that takes the knowledge of the people and so on and codify it and pass it on and so on. I feel I have a responsibility. I'm born August 17, 1951, Hurricane Charlie. I feel I had a moral obligation. The last thing I wrote for white people was my dissertation. I made it clear. I'm here to serve my people. I didn't have a choice because there's no black faculty. I wrote this when I went. Everything I do must be for the service of my people. Everything was secondary. But we can talk about some of those other issues. When I decided now to start to look at the lives of people, I work with companies and all other things at all levels of organization. The human element, that's me. I don't know, I work with all the bauxite companies, I work with all JPs. I don't know how to make the mine bauxite, but I can find the right people with the right motivation to get the right job done, all right? Oftentimes when people are retiring, they've asked me to do a talk for them and so on and to look at. So over time you start to get an interest in that area, to realize what is necessary. And I started looking at it, over the last 20 years, pulling together, and I started to see a pattern. The first pattern I saw was this retirement thing is a trick. And when I did the research, I found it out. Retirement goes back to 1889. That's the first time Bismarck did it in Germany. The US followed in about 1930. Set at age 65. End of year. But guess in 1989, the life expectancy for people living in developed country was 48 years. The chance that you make it to 65, not more than 3% of people made it to 65. It was intended to work. Most were dead long before. You realize the problem we have now. That's why this Social Security could go bankrupt. Because the way it is funded, and people are living 20 and 30 years. The persons you have in the workforce compared to those in retirement, the gap is getting. So Trump and others can talk all they want. They don't want no migrants and so on. But low birth rate countries need people from high birth rate countries to fuel the working population. America can't do without migrants. Canada can't do without. Europe can't do without. All right? So just let them forget the foolishness. So when I start to see that pattern, but hold on, no. Ooh, 65, what happens at that time? And we start getting this habit, this term that retirement means old age, and you up, down, and so on. We said, we're not in that with them. Old age, I don't know what that means. I'm 72 today. And my mandate to you, the idea, we don't have to age. We can choose to sage. Wisdom comes with age. How we do this? How we do this? Now, you all know that about child development. Child psychology is one of the most powerful things because only you have to learn things about children. We know a little about adolescent development. How much do you know about adult development? You spend more time as adult than you did as children. But there's so little we actually learn about the larger state of our lives. So one thing that I started to do was look at life in some phases. And that's why I use the life of a 4x100 race. And what we call retirement, I call it the anchor leg of life. No, I call it anchor leg. Who do you put in the 4x100? Who do you put on the anchor leg? Not the fastest man. Usain Bolt, it don't matter where him get the button. If I would do what? Win. Reasonable? No, that second leg is a special leg, you know. The second leg is the longest leg in the 4x100. Everybody understand why that is the longest leg? Because you have that straight. You take the baton as early as possible and you give it off as late as possible so you can get top speed. Most races are won in the second leg. That's how the strategy works. All right? Third leg, you get around the corner. All right. First leg of life, early child development, growing up, the central branch days. Now, boss, you realize when that said it to me and you? We came out of that first leg. No, I came out of a better start than you, all right? You suppose, when I went to KC government scholarship, there were two other fellows with government scholarship. So I tell myself the lowest I can come in 1A, because we used to have people in 1A, B, C, A was a bright student and was third. I never came less than second. All right? Because I tell them, that's me. If I'm brighter than the whole I want. I started off with that. So the first leg of life, early childhood, primary school, secondary school, all right? That foundation. Just think about the problems we're having in Jamaica now. You realize what is not happening in leg one? What is not happening? The second leg, that's your, let's call it now, your university or your training school. That's when you get your skills for work. That's a period somewhere between late teens but that's really much of your 20s going into 30. Would you say it takes that long to really learn what you're learning and get your trade and all of that? That's leg number 2. My second daughter is a Supreme Court judge in New York. I heard her on an interview explaining that when you're in your 20s and 30s, which is my leg 2, you're supposed to be grinding. You understand that? Because she lived in the Bronx. She worked full-time in Brooklyn. She went to Seton Hall University in Queens. She left home at 7 o'clock in the morning. You take bus and train and thing. Back home, 10 o'clock at night. If you're not grinding in your 20s and 30s, you're going to pay for the rest of your life. That's leg 2. And think about your own life. What were you doing at that time? And the problem is this way. The more fun you have in leg 1 and 2, is the less fun you have in leg 3 and 4. You pay for it later on. Leg 3, that's raising your family. And building your career. You realize what happened to some people now who never finish up school? When I see people, I taught a lot at extramural studies in Jamaica. And when I see people who come into extramural class in the evening to try and get something more because what they're trying to do is not working out. They're trying to earn some more money and so on. But leg 3 now, you're raising your family. You straighten up your career, you're trying to do the best. Because what happens now with leg 4, either them going to tell you, say, leave the premises, or you're forced to be written. They'll give you a gold watch or what have you. Now, the tables that they show you, the kind of how much 1.7 zillion you need to retire on. Most of UNO will never have that. All right? Forget it. It's a joke. You know who makes the most money? Who will make money off retirement fund? Fund managers. They eat first, but they want to encourage you. If you're not even making enough money to have a decent life and pay your rent, where do you make money from to save and invest and, But you try to do the best you can, all right? Leg 4, they call it retirement. In the book, we pointed out, it's the anchor leg of life. Most people are not prepared for that leg. And that's what this is all about, to prepare people for that leg. How do you make the most of that leg? Whether you have the money or don't have the money. If you with the money have big problems at that leg. One of the things that I do, I provide consultations to people in that phase. One of the most classic involvement. This gentleman was a judge. Retired. Now, if money can't done, he had good investment, in money tall. But after 2 years of retirement, he was depressed. Why? His wife that retired before him, but she had made a whole new life. She had all different clubs. Every day she gone somewhere. All he did was work. And he said, Dr. Semaj, you know what, some of my situation for my last 30 years, when I enter a room, what are the words I hear? All rise. Now me come home. Not even the dog stand up. You understand what happens? Add some more to it now. You retire. The first phase of retirement is called the holiday phase. Nice. It can last up to a year. But what starts to happen? Even before the boredom kick in now, the most common social event you're taking part in is something called funerals. Every time the phone rings, Lord God, who dead now? Mr. Hassan, you hear what happened to so-and-so? Guess we're in the hospital. Guess we're not feel well. Then you know, if you're in Jamaica, don't head with here, when you buy the newspaper, the first thing you look in the obituary page to see if you see your name. You understand the problems? Because you weren't prepared then. Now, life expectancy in Jamaica is about 78. US is up to about 85. What you going to do with that 20 years? Even if there's money, you can make a little money from Social Security, huh? You make a little money from your pension and so on, but you have a whole heap of time to play with. What are you going to do with it? So in the book, we talk about the phases of retirement. The phases. How we go to navigate the phases, how you prepare for them. Because you were not prepared, you were not told what's going to happen. So you say after that holiday phase, I heard you say the boredom. All of a sudden you have all this time, and what you going to do with it? So retirement, there's pre-retirement. Why? It's only that they say it's only. I remember when I gave a lecture at the Ministry of Finance many years ago about dual construct, and I pointed out that there's a blip in the mortality table 2 years after retirement. A lot of people within 2 years of retirement die because of the emptiness of their life. This man, he was almost on the verge of retirement. The man wouldn't stop hounding me until I could give him, send him all the data so he can read it himself. When I write to the man about 5 years ago after retirement, he said, Doc, I took your word, I teach part-time, Because that's part of the secret, huh? What you do now to counteract that boredom and that depression and all of that? Early retirement, first few years. Mid-retirement begins around 70. Late retirement refers to later years when you start to deal with physical decline and cognitive decline and all those kind of things. And then the end of life, final stage. That's why people see themselves going down, down, down. Me not in that, we don't know. How we counter this? Phase one, the vacation. Nice. You enjoy it. You go on all kind of tours and trips and so on. But after a while, you start looking to find people to go with because you can't find too many. Because your friends start to, your social network start to get thinner. Huh? The second phase, I should have boredom. The second phase is signified by loss. Loss of routine. That routine of going to work and that and going, it's part of what gives your life meaning and structure. But now you don't have the routine, you stick to 12 o'clock. Huh? You go in bed at 8 o'clock. Your sense of identity starts to get challenged. Who are you? Well, I work at so and so. You realize if you are where you work, when you cease to work, then who do you become? Relationships start to suffer because I've seen it in so many areas. What kept the marriage together is the distance and time apart. You come home just in time to go bed so you can ease the pressure. Now you're there at the house. She's tired of sitting at the house. You don't know where to go. And you start to get on each other's nerve. That's one of the reasons why when Jamaican men can't make it so well in this country, I want to go back home, because the corner bar, go play some domino. Everybody lives so far away, go play some domino with and so on and thing. The routine, the sense of purpose, the loss of power. You have no power. As the judge said, not even the dogs stand up. You are in trouble. Phase 3, trial and error. How can I make my life meaningful? How can I contribute? What can I do? If you get some help now, because phase 3, just like the third leg on the race, if you don't figure it out by the third leg, that anchor leg is going to be rough. So now, the anchor leg, what you have to do in the anchor leg, and that's what the essence of the book is, help you do 3 R's. Reset, rewire, and recommit yourself. We could even have a 4th one. If you don't reset, reinvent, rewire, you start to expire. So, what do we do to critically do this, survive? We have to prepare for this. We always talk about exercise is important. Guess what, folks? The #1 drug for longevity is exercise. You lose muscle mass 3 to 8% per decade once you hit 30. I fear you past 30. Once muscle mass is lost, you lose it faster than you can gain it. We hear all kind of things about the number one cause of death, about cardiovascular and so on. The number one cause of death for people over 60 technically is falls. Think about it. The fall trigger a whole avalanche of things. My father at 85 fell in the tub. When he was found 2 days later, in and out of conscious, guess what happened? It's an older house up in Port St. Lucie. His hand had hit the tile, and there were red ants in the tile. And so for 2 days, they were feeding on his hand. So you understand the toxins, huh? So when the neighbor found him and they got him to the hospital and so on, he came back, he came around, but all the organs just start shutting down. Because you see, once you fall, imagine you break a femur, you break a hip. Oh, that's 6 months in bed. You realize what happened to the rest of your muscles? The body. Fall is the number one cause of death. What's the best way to prevent fall? And it's not just exercise. You have to have resistance training. You have to lift weights to build muscle mass. So the people are telling you the fullness. Peter Attia has a wonderful new book where he talks about the concept of the decathlon, the centenarian decathlon, the 10 events, or you want to call it the centenarian Olympics. That's what we should all be training for. What is the centenarian Olympics? Here's how you figure it out. What are the things that you currently enjoy doing, that you aspire to do for the rest of your life, especially for the last decade of your life? So we call it at 90. Let's just use 100 as an even number. All right? Well, 100. What do you want to be able to do at 90? You have to start training for it from now. It don't just happen. I travel, to use another word, regular. Last week, I went to Toronto. Now, most airports are getting bigger and bigger, you know. Can you carry your luggage? Can you take your carry-on bag and put it in the overhead bin? Mr. People are struggling with that, you know, for live up 30 pounds. Mr. People are trying to take it down and mad to kill people. My wife complains that I act like poor people. I go to supermarket every day. I say it's part of my workout. The most important exercise is called farmer's carry. Ideally, you should be able to carry your body weight in 2 hands for at least a 2-minute walk. Now, you know, let's do it overnight now. You start with 225 pounds and then 230 and you see, no, like, you laugh, see, you can do 3 times your body weight though, right? Because it's the best exercise, right? You know, we always talk about how exercise reduces blood pressure. Finally, I saw a study where it actually explained which exercise, and farmer's carry and planking are the 2 most important exercises reducing blood pressure. You know why? You put the muscles under pressure for a period of time and hold it. Every muscle. Huh? What happens? The blood vessels are under pressure and they expand. So that the blood pressure does what? Reduces. Farmer's carry, planking. Holding on and hanging. Can you hang for 2 minutes? Can you start with 10 seconds? So that I have a list of exercises now as part of my centenarian Okay? 100 to win for, you know, centenarian Olympics I'm preparing for. I bench press. You must be able to bench press, gentlemen. 3/3, 3/4 of your body weight. Ladies, we can work with half. You know what I like to do? Invite my sons to the gym with me. He's a little younger than me, but when we start bench press, you know, I have kind of daddy. Leg press, you should be able to do 2-3 times. Well, I can leg press 4 times my body weight. All right? But we don't want to push it that far. That's 2 times the body weight. But that's the secret. That's the secret. So we're talking about, folks, the best is yet to come. Because we can't do it. We start the mindset. The first thing you do, forget this thing called old age. Look in the dictionary. All the signs of old age are negative. Everyone, I just saw a study came out yesterday, believe me, by AgeWave, wonderful organization in America. And they came to the same conclusion that we have to get rid of that word old age. You know the word they replaced it with? Longevity. Yeah? Total different construct, you know. I'm aiming for longevity. That's what we want to do. The problem with America, folks, America has the best healthcare facility in the world. But America is like number 48 in terms of life expectancy among developed countries. America is like 70 in terms of quality of life once you reach age 60. Because it is not programmed for that. But you can take on that responsibility. No, you can start anywhere. You know, the greatest muscle mass that takes place, growth, is when you're starting from 0. There was a study done where there are some women over 60 and they started with some resistance training. Within 6 months, this woman could bench press her body weight. So there's this notion that retirement is that time when you don't have to do nothing, you sit back and do nothing. You will wither away and die. So that the message, so how the book is structured, it comes with a workbook. And it works you through your phase 1, and your phase 2, and your phase 3, because guess what? Many of us are carrying baggage from back then, and we don't resolve it. And if you pick up the subtleness, if don't get past the I get government scholarship, and he never get one from primary school. Even though it turn out good, you know. It never too bad.
You get a scholarship.
Exactly. My wife there, she failed common entrance the first time. That's something that, I'm sure many have those kind of stories. And she had no reason, but the preparation from the school that she was going was a bad preparation. They moved her, and boom. And all the way through high school, valedictorian. Undergraduate, valedictorian. Doctorate, valedictorian. How come she failed common entrance? Because there was wrong with the system at that time. But she carried that baggage, but she's able to resolve it. Many of you are carrying baggage. Some of you are taking on some responsibilities for your family members. Going way back. And no, every day them call you to send money for this, and you don't know, tell them no. You can't tell them no because you're going to feel bad and so on and things. Right? So the workshop, we help to work you through all the baggage so you can release yourself. How you didn't. Now, finally, one tagline I like to use with this thing, what the importance of the book. One, you'll be able to save your life, and you have to save your marriage. Because what happens, relationships start to pull apart. See a whole lot of them here. Because guess what happened? The largest growth areas in divorce is called gray divorce. You know what I mean? People over 60 filing for divorce. You wonder, but hold on. Old people. And most divorces are being filed for by women. Because she said she's 62. You know? She knows she has 20 more good years with him. No, sir. So she wanted me. And the podcast this morning, and that took up the bulk of it with her. Because the person understands how many men understand how women age and how the transformation, what happens to their body, how much tender love and care they need. Huh? I remember some years ago, a man said to me, Doc, people are complaining how the mom is sitting with a young girl, but you don't understand how this thing works. An old battery can't start an old car. So that's why him need a new battery to start him old car. But what is that? What's that cost him in terms of his self-esteem, in terms of his resources? And what does that young battery really want from him?
The resources.
Sugar daddy. But then now, there's a whole section of the book where we talk about how do you rejuvenate your relationship? How do you bring back? Do you have a date night? Eh? I am fortunate, because the way my work is structured, my passion now since the COVID is cooking. The role of the chef is to take elements of the universe and make it available to your body. So I cook in my house. So when I tell my wife that lunch is served, and she come downstairs, she has no idea what she's going to get for lunch. When I say 6 o'clock, dinner is served, she has no idea what she's going to get. But she's going to get something exciting. By the way, I bonfire upon Jamaican food. You know why? There's a structural problem with it. I love it. But guess what? It takes too long to prepare. Because it goes back to slavery days. Without slavery, they're cooking. You can be in a kitchen for all. And the typical Jamaican household, it takes almost Sunday dinner and it takes about 5 hours. But in 15 minutes, people don't eat and belch. My approach to meals, it must not take more than an hour from prep to set it on the table. You must spend more time around the table than in the kitchen. Dr. Palmer, can you testify?
Praise the Lord.
Do I deliver? It can be done. So people ask, Dr. Semaj, when you're going to open your restaurant, when you're going to your cookbook? I said, no, my passion is cooking, not my profession. A whole different thing. So I'm saying, folks, the best is yet to come. But you have to restructure, and you can start anywhere you are. That's the greatest thing about it. It would be great if you can start from leg 1. Can you imagine we have planned to relay? Or leg 2. But if you're already started the ankle leg, there's so many things you can do. The book gives you a whole heap of ideas. What do you do now? Because the body and the mind needs work to keep it growing. We do an interesting section. Do you know that of the senses, one that you start to lose earliest is your sense of taste? By age 50, you lose half of your taste buds. So then you're going to hear the person, God, the food does not taste. I have heard some people accuse the helper of trying to poison them. But when I explain to her and I show her what happens to the taste buds, then you have to now compensate now with your seasoning in order to get it more, because we have in our mind a frame of reference of what curry goat is supposed to taste like. And if you don't match that, but the idea of being able to make the adjustment. Right? So we're saying that it can be done. I don't focus on this, the pop down and what you're going to do. Yes, you're going to lose some muscle mass because you're not working to keep it up. Fluid intelligence is there. All the stuff you have learned from a long time is the last to go. But you keep renewing it, you keep refreshing, keep current, read the newspaper, read the magazines, do crossword puzzles and all these kind of things, keeps current. Huh? Interact with young people, get some younger friends. Can your friend my dead half around you? Huh? get some younger friends so that they keep you rejuvenated and so on, so you're learning the new things. So we're saying we want to turn the corner on this completely. One notion, I wrote a paper some years ago where I talked about Jamaica has 5 paths to prosperity. One of the paths is called the tried and the proven. You know who those are? People 65 and over. Just think of how much things, when you retire at 65, how much knowledge you have in your head, how many ideas you have in your head. And I would like to encourage NIS to allocate a portion of funds towards quote-unquote senior citizens with business ideas. But you have to do 2 things. We'll give you $1 million to start with. You have to employ 2 young people. Now you see what they have it backwards. They have all this money they're giving young people to start business. Young people with no work experience, with no skills. Huh? If I give you the $1 million, and you will mentor 2 young people, there's a skill transfer. It's a knowledge transfer. And by giving you that money at 65, guess what? You're not going to keep it. You know why? At 65, you should be coming from prison, not going to prison. Reasonable? So I am convinced beyond the shadow of a doubt that the best is yet to come. You can start right now. That's also like evangelism. Brothers and sisters, come on down. You can start right now, right where you are, and you can make a big difference. Because Peter Attias has a very interesting observation. We have gone from medicine 1.0, where we used to have fast death, everything dropped on dead, to medicine 2.0, where we now have slow death. We have medication that can keep you alive for a long time as a vegetable. We need to go to medicine 3.0, where we start prevention, rejuvenation. We start doing things so that we can, and we have the capacity to live long, powerful, and productive lives. So that's why when you deal with old age, you can choose to sage, because the best is yet to come. Questions? Answers? Yes, sir.
Dr. Semaj. I remember you from 1980.
1980.
1980. I Queen's College, and he was presenting a paper. I believe it was on the psychology of Jamaican, Chinese extraction, Indian, African, and how they felt, they saw themselves,
Yes.
the image of themselves, you know, and that the Chinese had a negative image of themselves too. Like, it wasn't just a black thing that black people feel bad about themselves because of the history, but everybody suffers from the same white supremacy, superstitious ideology.
Oh, it's a frame of reference, you know, it's white people. I remember my children when they were young. And I said, Daddy, black people don't make movies too. How come every movie we see? And to a large extent, about the quite recent, all the stars, how come Tarzan? Yeah? Why when you go to Africa and can talk to all the animals and can tell them what to do, and the natives are afraid of, that was part of the whole indoctrination. So all people of color went through that.
You know, funny, right? I just heard recently that there's an article saying that the church owned slaves,
Oh yes, I mean that's
right?
common knowledge.
And they were focusing mostly on the Anglican Church in Jamaica, right?
Absolutely. But remember that in America they have something called the slave Bible,
Yes,
where they
right.
would take out sections of the Bible that would give slaves the idea that freedom is something that they could. Yeah. Well, absolutely, my brother, but I'm gonna change.
And but I was thinking, in terms of changing like mindset of the generations coming up, right? Psychology has to play a very important part in this because it's psychology that is really determining what we live in now. Because St. Jago High School I went to, right? And I learned that Beckford and Smith, right? Beckford left money to start the school, right? Um, because he said that he wanted to have a school for the poor whites of Jamaica, right? St. Jago High School.
A lot of
right?
people don't understand the history of Jamaica's education. Maybe, hopefully CG contains a lecture series and gives us a chance to do some other thing. If we're to talk about the education side tangent alert, folks, you understand that Jamaica has 7 all-boys schools and 14 all-girls schools? That was designed. And the co-ed school have a 60-40 ratio sometimes. Because the system was designed for the boys to cut cane and reap banana. You realize that Port Antonio, St. Thomas and Portland, for the longest while only had one high school. Because it wasn't intended for them to do anything other than just leave the most basic school. So we have some structure, I mentioned Bedford and Smith. People understand why KC is the way it is. KC was the only school designed for what it was. At the time when KC was started in 1925, all the other schools, there was one scholarship a year that one could get for people's children. Because we didn't have money to attend, whether it's Woolmas or JC or so, or Monroe or Bishop Gibson started one about 5 schools he started for poor people children to have access to education. So it was a structured thing. Right? But that's another lecture. Anything else? Yes, brother.
Era we live in, I don't know, you probably have statistics, but the failure of marriages seem to be more prominent today. So, and a lot of people go through that process. But one thing that I find, and as someone who is, somewhere there, you find that when you're trying to raise your children to sort of pick your life back up and move on, it's very hard for you to sort of adjust to people because by that time, as you're in the third or fourth leg, it's very difficult for you to make a lot of changes because you have already established your modus operandi.
And the baggage you're walking with,
exactly.
the baggage you carry.
Right. And then the thing that I find is, and I have a few of my friends who have had the same experience, is that so you decide that, hey, this is my first or second marriage didn't work for me. Trying to get back to the I call it, I tell myself that I'm ready on that last turn where I am today. And you want somebody to go down to the finish line with you. But I find that a lot of women today, they're I don't know because of their previous experience that they've had or whatever it calls, but they seem more focused on either of a couple of things. Either they're focused on I've had experience where a few women, not just one or two, a few women have when you've been introduced and so on, you got into the middle, not even the middle of the relationship, they ask you what you bring to the table. I find that question very often. First time I heard, I never thought of it. The second time I heard, I felt very offended. Because,
Again, you take notes? This is another series on that. Because relationship issues don't know. Remember, listen, the way that way. If I had my way, I would move marriage from RGE. Company's office. And I want when you come before me, I want to draft a memorandum of association and an artist association. All you must know is that I do pause. I do pause. I will. I now pronounce man and wife. You need to let what you bring to the table. It's a critical, it's an important, and the problem now. I remember a colleague of mine, Bert Samuels, lawyer, Jamaican school of law school, is 85% female. You understand that? Most of the young lawyers, they're not nobody. Alright? Or the person that have, they can't see the public way. You understand that? I'm a two ways. And we have a situation in Jamaica now where if you live with somebody for 5 years, common law relationship has the same benefits as legal union. So that the person can fight for half of their resources. And what Bertram was pointing out was that the women were so happy to hear about this. But they're one of the biggest losers. Because Jamaica is noted as the place with the largest proportion of the world of female marriages. Our high schools are 65% female. Our universities, 80% female. So the person's graduating and moving up. I remember a man, as you work for a company, that man said, Dr. Semaj, the kind of anti-government. Anti-government. Every teacher was at school was about female. Every teacher in college was female. And I worked for 20 years, and every manager I worked for is female. So you understand, so women are come to, and because our laws are written with crayon in Jamaica and pencil. Not like here where, gentlemen, if you're told that if the wife just raise her voice, no, if you raise your voice, and she called, and said she feels threatened. What it is? Thursday. Then pick up today. It's Monday before you get billed. And all of that. Because the rules are enforced here. And what happens in Jamaica, a lot of middle class people are catching hell. From workless man them there with. And they don't want them embarrassed that when the family court week after week and month after month. So that a relationship and marriage is based on what are the resources, who has access to the resources, how will it be handled. That's why we have prenuptial agreements now, where things are mapped ahead of time. And women, a lot of women have seen their mothers and said that now happened to me. So some got almost bitter. And it almost come down, it's a contract, you know. And all this is have to articulate it. But when a woman has been burnt a number of times, the Jamaican woman motto, you know, is what is mine is mine, and what's yours is mine. Is mine. Right? So that the whole thing has to be negotiated. And that's why I'm glad you raised this, because that level at legs 3 and 4, there are a lot of unhappy people. Lots of unhappy people. You have your big house, you have you one, and play hide and seek in there.
Well, the other side of them also found is that, as against, confronting someone and say what you would do, there's also another side where the woman has assumed responsibility, and not just her to meet their children, but also grandkids. So that, there are a lot of men out there who feel threatened by the fact that,
Understand the rules, my brother. The culture of Jamaica is such that the closest person to a woman is her mother. Next are children. Then the rest of our relatives. You may come forth if you're lucky, and you have to work hard to get that. No, it's set up. So, what you do? You will come close to our mother. Gentlemen, our mother like you. I don't like you, boss. No.
And I understand that side.
Yes.
And I have maintained that, but It is what it
No,
is.
but no, folks, again, we see the basis for our whole series. Can you imagine that a series here start to have this kind of discussion, serious discussion? Professor.
Yes. In the past, you talked about best is yet to come and retirement. In the past, the thesis was that you make your money and you retire. But in recent times, what I have noticed, even among professionals in my institutions, people are retiring later. So the question I want to ask you, is there a correlation between what you're earning and your retirement? Because the thesis that my colleagues and I have come up with is that sometimes what you're giving up to retire, the opportunity cost is so great that you don't want to give it up. You keep working.
No, it's more than that.
So could you speak to that?
Yes. All right. The data says that people who keep working live longer because they're engaging. So that's first. People who, and the actuarial tables are lies. Because what you will need to work, I'm done, to do nothing, is 1.7 trillion, 400,000 billion. It don't make sense, all right? So that working past retirement, and when we created the construct in our company called Tried and Proven, we have to start selling to company. You open a division, you're looking for a young manager to do and so on, hold on. What like you are recently retired senior manager who can come in for 3 months and get it up and running? Huh? And they will provide understudy the young manager. So now, after time, we want you will go in 3 days a week or a half day each so that you keep the brain fresh, you keep earning money. So that way it spreads out over the longer period of time. On top of that, another thing in Jamaica now, folks, you have all these retired old people, 12 them in a house up behind and seek. The children are coming back to Jamaica. Huh? They have this massive house, right? And so he's behind the rock, but there's something like gas. So you can't even just almost tear it down if you want to set, give up the part here and so on and thing. So the next best thing is now you have at least the resources, you are asset rich and cash poor. So by selling the house, downscaling to a condo or a townhouse and so on, Jamaica has no such thing as reverse mortgage. That's a wonderful construct. Huh? So with a reverse mortgage, you can get the value of your house to live off. As opposed to leave it as dead left here and come fight over it. Right? So that is where the extra money will come from. Whatever you working at your encore career. Sometimes the same career you step it down, but sometimes that's another thing you want to move into. You want to do something totally different, something that's in the back of your mind. Right? But it will provide you with money, it will provide you with a social network. Huh? And so that person naturally wants to work longer. You're better off working longer. You say, well, I want to over rest. So that practice again.
Thank you.
Yes, Lord.
So first of all, kudos for looking into retirement. I think it's a conversation a lot of people are afraid of because it means end of life and whatever that history comes with it. And so I hear the context change and I hear the exercise. I turned 40 and I went to the doctor and all blood pressure and stuff that I never know about is things I start hearing about that nobody talked about until you start investigating. And the importance of doing something. So I couldn't swim. I started learning how to swim last year. And I'm like, what am I going to do next to keep myself going, right?
Exactly.
The one thing I didn't hear you say, which you probably cover at some point, is the eating habits. Because when I noticed that there's an exercise, the scale now move. And then there's a conversation, some of my mother did eat, some of this did eat, some of this did eat, and people don't want to change, and they're not even paying attention to altering the diet. I don't need to eat 3 big meals a day. I don't. I don't need to eat, so is that something that you've addressed?
Absolutely.
What have you seen about
So
that?
we have to correct this. First of all, our diet that we grow up like is so carb dense. Again, look at the evolution of people. As human beings, we go back far enough, half of the day was spent hunting for food. All right? Most people that come to America, them blow up big and fat, because food's so cheap and so easy to come by. So that, especially junk food, because naturally, in terms of how, but even the so-called standard American diet, what they call it, SAD, S-A-D, it's a SAD diet. In terms of what you need, forget about meal specific, is the nutrients that the body. So many of us have to relearn. What are your protein source? What are your fruits and vegetables? And in terms of the carbs, how much you actually need. Because the energy. Protein is the number one thing. Because you want to build muscle. So absolutely, they're saying that you can't out-exercise a bad diet. So no matter how much you exercise, so the nutrients that and you start to learn more about these things. You start to learn because you are now taking full responsibility. And so you have to rethink, you have to replan completely how you eat, what you eat, when you eat, all of these things. And one of the most basic things, all fruits stand by here. The first thing you peel them. Because if I saw the apple, it can last a few weeks. How them spray things on them. The whole notion of can you get organic foods? But the next best thing, folks, once you get your fruits and so on, you put them in the sink and you put some hydrogen peroxide and so on for about 5-10 minutes so that you're able to get off some of the toxins on them and so on. So you're right. What you eat, remember, the role of a chef is to prepare elements of the environment to make it part of your body.
Universe.
Absolutely. So you have to be very conscious of that because you're fueling your body. Right, sister?